Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. We're going to return to a brewery who have featured on the channel many a time before. This is going to be review number 20 or so that I've done from these guys, and this is one of their latest releases. So we're going to head a little bit to the northeast of me here in Lund to Eslöv, and we're going to have a look at yet another beer from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri. So the Remmarlöv Farm Brewery, if you want to translate that into English. So this particular beer is called the Crankshaft Double Ipa. It comes in at 7.5% ABV, so I guess it's on the very edge of what you could consider a double IPA. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly what kind of double IPA this one is, but it was released on the 1st of February 2021 as part of the Lokala Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden. And yeah, this is the first of maybe 3 beers that you'll see me review from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri this month. I've got a sour beer to have a look at and also a black IPA, so you'll see those appear fairly soon actually. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. I've always enjoyed the beers from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, and probably the best one I've had in recent times actually was the Skånsk Pils. I really enjoyed that. But one beer I would always recommend from this brewery would be the Niblina Session IPA. That's a lovely beer, and I think that probably is the best IPA I've had from them over the last kind of year or so. So yeah, definitely pick that one up if you get the chance. But yeah, curious to see how this one turns out, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well then. So yeah, let's see how we get on. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, as I've told you many a time before, are based on a farm near Eslöv to the northeast of me here in Lund in Skåne in southern Sweden, and they've been brewing since the autumn of 2014, and then in January of 2015 they started selling the beers through Systembolaget. But the owner and founder of this company is Håkan Nilsson, and together with his wife Michelle, he started his plan for a brewery a couple of years prior to this, and it's located on his family farm. Håkan is apparently the 5th generation of his family to make their living in the Skånsk countryside. But the old barn was renovated and a new brew house of 1,500 litres was installed, and then they hired Hampus Olofsson as their brewer in August of 2014, and he had previously worked for Malmö Brewing Company. But over the last few years they've been gradually expanding the capacity. They've now got a 3,000 litre brew kit, and they've invested in new fermentation tanks, which the first of which came in the spring of 2018, and this apparently takes their capacity up to a possible 800,000 litres of beer per year. In 2019 they also opened up their summer pub, and that was opening up every Wednesdays, and they were planning to expand the brewery again throughout 2020, but of course the COVID-19 pandemic came, and I think those plans were put on hold. And apparently different aspects of the Remmarlöv Gårds business actually kind of faltered a little bit. They had some real problems, but apparently the thing that really kept them going was the sales of the beers through Systembolaget. So apparently their sales through Systembolaget have actually increased during the corona times, which is pretty good actually. It's nice that that's helped the company get through. But as I say, I've had many beers from these guys over the last couple of years, and as of February 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, these guys have produced in the region of 60 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about these guys for the moment. There probably will be more news to add to the history notes at some stage in the future, but I do need to go and visit these guys and see about filming a Meet the Brewery segment with them at some stage as well. That would be pretty cool to get Håkan and Hampus to do an interview with me. So maybe once this whole COVID-19 pandemic is gone, we can try and sort that out. That would be really cool, actually. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can really tell you about Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri for the moment. One of my really local breweries here in Skåne, and one that I would recommend you check out. As I said, the Neblina from these guys is great, and if you can get a hold of one of the local hops beers or the Skånsk Pilsner, then I would really recommend those. But yeah, make sure you check them out if you get the chance. But yeah, if you want to learn more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and have a taste of this beer itself then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is laid out in quite a similar way to the other beers that we've had from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri in the past. 330ml can, this one. I like the hop flowers on the back of this, actually. It is very, very nice. As I said, this is a 7.5% double IPA, so it's pretty much on the very edge of what you could call a double IPA. One of the other things I do like about this is that they put the Made in Skåne thing on the back of the can there. I think that's a nice little touch. I do like the kind of paper labels that they have as well, actually. These are very, very nice. But yeah, 330ml can. I think I paid in the region of 35 Swedish kroners for this. So that translates to roughly about £3 sterling, €3.50, and I guess maybe somewhere in the region of $4 American for those of you watching in the different places. But yeah, 7.5% double IPA. This one, not sure exactly what kind of double IPA it is, but it does say that it contains wheat and oats, so I'm guessing it might well be a New England one. But yeah, released as part of the Lokala Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for February of 2021. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Curious to see what this beer has in store for us. Let's sugar up the last little bit of it and see how we go. Yep, no sediment left in the bottom of the can there, just a wee bit of foam. So yeah, it actually looks a little bit more like a kind of West Coaster, to be honest with you. There we go. Just always need to check my little viewfinder to see that the can's facing the camera again. Just OCD and all of that. But yeah, as you can see, this beer has poured. It does really look like a West Coast IPA, to be quite honest with you. But you can see there's a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say cream coloured head to this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and it's got a really nice kind of rich amber type colour to it. This one, I really like how that I really do like how that goes together. It's got a little bit of a kind of natural haze to it, to be honest with you, so not kind of completely filtered, but I think it does look, it does really look more like a kind of West Coaster, this one. Of course, you know, the oats and the wheat will give you a little bit of this kind of haziness to the beer, but yeah, usually, of course, if it's a kind of full-on New England, it will be a lot kind of more hazy and soupy and gloopy and things like this. But yeah, it really does look more like a West Coaster, but I'm sure we'll be able to tell what kind of style of beer this one is when we have a taste of it. Maybe the aroma will give us a hint as well. But in terms of a new of an IPA, this one does look a little bit more like a West Coaster. It didn't really say explicitly what kind of IPA this one was intended to be. Maybe it's supposed to be a bit of a hybrid between the two different styles, if you like. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we got on. But in terms of appearance, definitely more a West Coaster in my mind. Okay. The aroma of this beer is actually it's almost quite reserved, to be honest with you. It's actually quite, you know, reserved and not so kind of punchy almost. So yeah, in the backbone of this beer then you can feel a nice little bit of a sort of white kind of smooth bready quality to it. It does have a nice little bit of breadiness in there. Yeah, the aroma coming out of this beer, I think, is quite, you know, straight shooting in a lot of ways. It comes across as very, very subtle. You know, as I say, there's a sort of kind of wholemealy sort of bready backbone to the beer. There's a little bit of bread crust in there, and you can get a wee bit of a kind of, you know, you can get a little bit of a kind of booziness out of it, to be honest with you. So yeah, it is interesting how that pieces together. So yeah, it's got a nice kind of you say, you can get a few of the kind of boozy alcohol-y notes out of this beer, which is quite interesting. So it's got a wee bit of brown sugar to it. You can definitely pick up a little bit of that kind of boozy sort of caramelly sort of thing, but at the same time you can smell a little bit of the sort of alcohol-y notes coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, that's an interesting point about this one. There's a wee bit of wheaty bitiness if you take the aroma in a bit more deeply. Yeah, definitely you get a wee bit of that wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose if you take the aroma in a bit more deeply. And you know, it's, yeah, I mean, it's, how would you say, it's more, yeah, a little bit of wheaty bitiness in there. You do get a wee bit of the oaty smoothness, but I think this is more a kind of smooth and bready, sort of barley malt leaning IPA, to be honest with you. Nice little bit of kind of brown sugary, kind of sweet caramelly notes to it. There's a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit, but the brown sugary notes you get out of this one are mainly kind of boozy, if that makes sense. So on the hoppy side of things, on the hoppy side of this beer, it's got a wee bit of a, it does have a wee bit of a sort of, there's a wee touch of an earthy kind of note to it. There's a nice little bit of floral aromaticity comes out of the beer as well. It's got a good, it has a wee kind of touch of dankness to it, and you get a little bit of a kind of grassy, zesty quality to it. But like I say, the overall aroma of this beer, it really just strikes me as being kind of reserved. It doesn't jump out the glass at you so much. The fruits are kind of interesting as well, to be honest. I think other than what we've said about the green component, there's not too much to say. And I would say about this beer, I am having to search quite a little bit for the aroma out of this one. So for me, there is a wee bit of a kind of mango-y, apricot-y note out of this one. There's a bit of that kind of, there's a sort of sultana kind of apricot-y jam sort of thing coming out of the beer. You know, yeah, it's quite a dried fruity note you get out of this one. So yeah, a little bit of mango, a little bit of apricot, you know, some some sort of lemon limey notes as well, and then you've got just a kind of dried sultana-y type fruit coming out of the beer as well. So I really like how I really like the fruity side of the beer and that sort of dried thing it has, but it comes across as quite a, you know, boozy sort of thing. But the aroma in this one, it's actually really hard to kind of extrapolate, to be honest with you. It's really hard to kind of get it out of the glass. It just strikes me as a really reserved beer in that sense. And yeah, my nose, you know, I was wondering about my nose, you know, why can I not really smell what's going on here? And I think my nose is clear. I don't have coronavirus, absolutely not. So, you know, it's, I'm just sitting thinking, you know, why am I not getting so much out of this beer? Maybe there just isn't that much to get, to be honest with you. So, yeah, this one's a little bit confusing in some ways, I have to say. But, yeah, it seems like it might be an interesting beer, this one. So take a wee bit of time to ponder over the aroma of this one, but in honesty, I think you're not going to get that much out of it. I'm just hoping we get a wee bit more out of the flavour of this beer, I have to say. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. Do have a look at the aroma, but as I say, don't spend too long on it. So this one is the Crankshaft Double IPA, 7.5% ABV from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri in Eslöv, near me here in Lund in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, pardon me, cheers. Okay. Right. First impressions of this beer is it seems to have a kind of, you know, the first thing, it comes in and it feels a little bit boozy. Doesn't really feel sweet or anything like that. You get a wee bit of earthiness out of it. Then you start to get a big kind of florally danky sort of thing out it. It's unusual, this one, I have to say. But yeah, I'm going to say straight away with this one, this is not the best IPA that I've had from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri. This one, I don't know. It almost tastes a little bit like an IPA would if it's, you know, if it's getting towards the end of its prime, you know. So that's the thing about it. I mean, let me just check the canned date on this one. So it says the 12th, 21. I would assume that they would be given this, you know, a year in the can. And this was released at the start of February. So, you know, maybe it's been in the can a little bit too long. Maybe it's been, depending on when it's been, you know, it's maybe been canned early on in December, because it does feel like, you know, it does feel like it's sat for a little while, in fairness. Yeah, it does feel like it's sat for a wee while, to be honest with you. And if it's got a best before date of the 12th 21, maybe this has been canned in December and it's been sitting in the warehouse for like a few weeks. And obviously I'm reviewing this for you at the end, you know, on the 24th of February, which maybe doesn't help matters, to be honest with you. So maybe I'm drinking this when I could be drinking this, it's sometime between, you know, 8 and 12 weeks old, I would think, that I'm drinking this beer at, which is probably a little bit late, to be honest with you. Maybe I should review this one a little bit sooner. So maybe partially the thing is with me, but this beer, it tastes like a West Coast IPA that the hops have kind of started to drop off on. That's what strikes me about this one. So I don't know, maybe this has sat in the warehouse too long. It might have been stored at the wrong temperature or something like that. But it just, this one isn't on the same level as the other IPAs I've had from Remmarlöv in the past, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a shame. And I mean, you know, it is drinkable enough, but it just doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have the same kind of standard, if you like, that the likes of the Neblina and, you know, some of the other ones that I've had previously have given me. And maybe that's why the aroma just wasn't quite up there with this beer. And I'm certainly not going to let that put me off having other beers from Remmarlöv. As I say, I've got a black IPA to try from them, and I've also got the sour from last month to take a look at as well, actually, which I would think would be fine. But yeah, this beer does just taste a little bit like a kind of West Coast IPA that's where the hops are dropping away. So yeah, on the let's try and just break down the flavour of this one then. It does, you know, let's go for it. So straight away with this beer, you can feel a little bit of a kind of bready malt just blanket in the middle of your palate there. You can feel it's a nice kind of, I will say the malty side of this beer is actually quite nice in a sense, but I think it's just the other stuff in the beer that sort of just kind of makes it feel as if it's a little bit off almost. But yeah, straight away with this beer, you can feel a nice sort of wholemealy brown bready quality, and that just forms the backbone of the beer. So as you go into that how do you say, border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you do get a wee bit of a bread crusty note on this one, and then as you go onto that back third of the tongue, you can feel there really is a bit more of a kind of grainy, sort of almost big bread crusty type quality there. You can feel the breadiness in this beer is a little bit thicker on that back third of your palate. But like I say, as you go further forward, the thickness drops away as you reach that border region. Then the middle third of your palate, sort of wholemealy brown bready note, and then on top of that, you've got a kind of oily, boozy, sort of caramelly thing. In the very centre of that middle third of your tongue, it is quite boozy and caramel-like, and as you move further out from the centre of your tongue, it develops a little bit more of a sort of biscuity type. It develops a little bit more of a kind of biscuity type quality, in fairness. So yeah, that's worth bearing in mind with this one, definitely. So yeah, you definitely get that, and you get more graininess coming out of this beer the further that you go into it, and it's almost got a wee bit of a kind of earthy quality, which I would guess maybe comes from the yeast, to be honest with you. But yeah, other than that, there's not too much to report in the way of the malty side of things. But yeah, on the hoppy side of the beer, in the back corners of the palate, there is a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, that very quickly develops to be more of a kind of It does develop a little bit more of a herbal quality, but then the dankness and big floral aromatic notes come out as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate. So I do like how that comes out in this beer. It does have a good kind of green component to it, which is what you would expect of a West Coast IPA, and I suspect that this beer was supposed to be a bit more of a West Coast IPA. And it's interesting because I don't find the wheat or the oats come out in this beer too much, but in a West Coaster, if you use a bit of wheat and you use a bit of oats, it's not really all that kind of noticeable. It's probably just smoothing out a bit of the bread on that front half of the middle third of your palate. And yeah, there is a wee bit of wheaty bitiness in the back third of your tongue there, but not a lot. But yeah, you've got a good big kind of green component to this beer, a big sort of floral aromatic quality, but then round the front curve of the tongue, it's distinctly lighter and more sort of grassy in a sense, if you like. There is a wee bit of a kind of zesty, lemon-limey type quality out of the beer. So yeah, that's an interesting point to make about this one for sure. So yeah, fruity side of this beer, I think, it does have a wee bit of an interesting quality to it, but I don't think it really kind of redeems the overall thing. But yeah, on the front third of your palate, as I always say, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. If you go to that border region between middle third and front third of your palate, again, you've got a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty, grainy sort of thing coming out of the beer, and you can feel a bit of the kind of smoother wholemeal bread forming the base of the beer on that kind of front third of your tongue. But yeah, if you go towards the back, on the fruity side of the beer, if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, it's a bit of a stronger kind of passion fruity note. As you move further forward, you get a wee bit more of an oily mango. I suspect there might be, Citra, Simcoe. The hops in this are fairly familiar, to be honest with you, so I think maybe Citra, Simcoe, something like that. But then as you move further forward, you do get a wee touch of an apricot note out of it. This beer does have a kind of few peary, sort of sultana type vibes to it. Then as you move on to the kind of front half of that front third of your tongue, it's got a little bit more of a kind of, there's a wee bit of an almost gooseberry note there, which does make me wonder if Citra is one of the components in here. But then you get a wee bit of a kind of lemon-limey zest on the kind of front edge of your palate. So it's quite interesting how that goes together, in fairness. It does, the fruitiness actually does give the beer a wee bit of, the fruitiness is one of the nicer parts of the beer, I would think. But yeah, as I said, the flavour in this one, it just doesn't feel sort of overly refined, if you like, and I do suspect it could just be that this beer sat in the can, it sat in the warehouse at the wrong temperature, and that's that. But as I say, I've not helped this beer because it's been released on the 1st of February and I'm drinking it on the 24th, so I'm drinking it another 3 weeks later, but I think this one might just have been sitting a little bit too long. So yeah, not sure about this one, but as I say, it definitely doesn't come across as refined as some of the other Remmarlöv ones that I've come across in the past. It's not like it feels like it's a little bit old. That's the thing, is it feels like a West Coast IPA that's just kind of where the hops are just dropping out of it, to be honest with you. But I think stylistic, this one probably is a West Coast IPA, but the last West Coast IPA we had from them I thought was a lot better than this. The last IPA was considerably better than this one, I would say. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, to round off the review, terms of the mouthfeel, I would say this beer is kind of it's at the top end of mid-bodied for me. The carbonation's smooth, the mouthfeel has a little bit of that kind of cleanliness to it and a little bit of the oily character that you would expect of a West Coaster. The bitterness, I think, is maybe around 50 or 60 IBUs. It does feel a little bit more bitter. Again, that's something that moves it towards the West Coast side of things. The malt base has a wee bit of graininess, and it does get a little bit sort of drier the further you go into the aftertaste. There's a wee bit of sweetness in there and a bit of bready smoothness, and as I said, some kind of oily fruity characters coming out of it as well. So yeah, I mean, the fruity side of this beer is quite nice. The sort of, I can see that the malty side might be quite nice, but I just get a feeling that the hops have dropped out of this and it's maybe just not quite as fresh as it needs to be. It feels like the release might have been delayed a little bit or something, so I'm not sure about that. So definitely not the most kind of refined IPA that I've had from Remmarlöv, but it's certainly not going to put me off trying some of the other beers. I have had better IPAs than this one from Remmarlöv in the past, so yeah, just be aware of that when you try this one. It just feels like it's a little touch old, basically. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Crankshaft Double IPA, 7.5% ABV, a West Coast IPA it turned out, but just felt a little touch old, if you like. So maybe I need a fresher batch of this one to try again. We'll maybe see about that at some stage. But yeah, always nice to review new beers from Remmarlöv. As I said, I have their first sour release to have a look at, and I've also got their black IPA to look at as well, so you'll see those appearing within the next kind of week or two, if you like, and I certainly look forward to those. But yeah, that is it for this review. So as always, thank you for watching. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri as well. If you do get the chance, I'd recommend you try the Neblina from these guys, lovely low alcohol session IPA, or the Skånsk Pils when it comes out. I'd love to see them be able to make that a regular, but you know, the malt, the Skånsk malt, Skånsk hops, and things like that, I think it's just a difficult kind of thing in terms of production. But yeah, definitely worth checking out this brewery if you get the chance. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri, and I'll catch you guys in the next review. The Crankshaft Double IPA, 7.5% ABV from Remmarlöv Gårdsbryggeri in Eslöv here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Slanja, skål, cheers.